name's Hannah and I'm from Chatter, and today we're here talking to Matt as a part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. How are you today?
Wonderful, Hannah.
It's such a pleasure to talk to you. We're having a bit of a talk tonight, and what are you going to be chatting to everyone about?
That's a good question. I think there is a form of renaissance happening now. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the brands that I work with want to push that. I think it's happening. I think we don't need to push it. I think we just need to be aware of the wave that's coming, or is actually moving through at the moment.
We're talking digital media.
Multiple mediums.
Yep.
So I think that digital media is just another form of expression, another form of sharing information, of storytelling, of experiencing new worlds. And if I say mapping uncharted reality, what does that mean to
It makes my head be like, what?
Well, that's exactly what it is. That's it. So somebody introduces a term that you may not have heard before. Your curiosity grabs onto it, or gets frightened by it and pulls out. But if it grabs onto it, then I believe you awaken an innate creativity similar to what a child has, and now you start mapping uncharted areas. So just like when you go to a new city that you've never been to before, and you experience new foods, music, and all of those things.
All of the things I love.
Yeah, there you go. We can just dwell in that for a moment. You notice that your, what I call a map of reality, but is like your understanding of music, food, culture, grows.
Yeah.
And suddenly you go from this kind of view, a window that's this big, to a window that's now that big.
Yeah.
And so virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, and something that I've had fun talking about, transcended reality, all of those things, to me, give us that wondrous mind of a child again.
And how does this come back to entrepreneurism and building businesses?
Well, again, I think that's one area.
Yeah.
So the business that I founded, Effectors, is actually, Effectors, what I initially set out to do, and I believe is happening, is it's a movement. The business part of it, so the entrepreneurial side of it, is really just a vehicle to fund that movement. So business to me is commerce, and commerce is actually just a verb. People think it's a thing, but no, it's commerce is just like, I want something that you have, you agree with me to sell it for a certain price, and then commerce happens. But it doesn't happen whilst I'm over here doing my thing and you're over there doing your thing, and we don't know each other.
Yeah.
So how do we get to know each other? That's going to require communication, that's going to require expression, and the more creative it is in a really crowded kind of world, media crowded world, message crowded world, the more creative it is, the more likely that message is to reach you. And if it reaches you, then we're more likely to do commerce.
Yeah.
But if it never reaches you and you never know of me and I never know of you, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah, we were talking about how commerce and creative sort of get regarded as two separate entities, which isn't the case, as you were talking about. And we were talking a bit about how this has come through in your personal life. Could you tell me a bit about that?
Yes, is the short answer. Okay, so probably the cleanest answer is I did arts commerce at Melbourne University, and those two degrees were never seen as happening together, and so I had like no sense of belonging on either. So every commerce lecturer I went to thought that I was
commerce.
No, well, law commerce kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's what that means. They're probably assuming that that's what you're doing.
Yeah, and most of my friends or acquaintances did that. But arts commerce, there was just like this strange isolation feeling where mistrust on both sides. So commerce students... Yeah, totally. No, I'm glad you find that amusing. We're talking about some trauma in my life.
I feel like that wasn't fun for me. I didn't enjoy that.
Look, it became fun, but it was not fun at the beginning. And that's probably because the reasons for me doing it weren't because I loved business and loved art and therefore did it. It was that I loved poetry and majored in poetry and arts, And then, like, my mother, bless her, because she did it with very good intentions, was like, you need to
do something
you
else.
need to be doing commerce.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot for people, though. I think, they say, I'm doing arts, or I'm doing, creative arts or something like that. And people think, no, but, like, what are you really doing?
Yep.
That's not a career, is it? Like...
It was even stronger than that, yeah. Like, so anyone in the commerce circles thought that I was a squanderer of resources. So the artist was seen as somebody who squanders resources.
Yeah.
And on the other side, everyone in my poetry tutorials and lectures was like, if you use this for advertising, we will never forgive you. So you can see the like kind of segregation there is really defined. However, I'm so grateful to it because it's ended up being my career.
Yeah. So how did that come about?
So I did do advertising. So that happened. And I think I learned how to make an impact in a clear, concise way. There's also a lot of cognitive behavioural theory in that, which is a form of psychology.
Yeah.
Sort of advertising's just picked the parts that allow them to manipulate audiences.
Yeah.
And I just mean manipulate in the true sense of the word, which is handle with skill.
Yeah.
Not the way that we use it, which
Manipulate.
is like, you horrible, evil,
horrible.
like scourge of society. But there's not an artist that doesn't manipulate the hearts and minds of an audience.
Well, that's the way that you create connection, I suppose. So.
This is true. This is true. I may be trying to
manipulate me
you
right
now.
now. I considered this. So
what's your strategy?
Manipulate.
You said you've considered this. You've considered the fact that I may try and manipulate you. I would now like to know what your strategy is.
No, I'm joking.
I'm getting a bit hot. I'm going to take this off.
No, it is really warm in here. I thought that before I took my jacket off. I was
it's got nothing to do with the temperature in here, Hannah.
No. So tell me a bit more about, how are you sort of showing to people that this isn't two different things? Like, you did commerce and you did art, but now you've made a successful career out of it. Why aren't more people doing this? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think I caught some really lucky breaks. So, I mean, I had like positive intent and I had purpose. But when I first thought, okay, Effectors, I'm going to launch it now.
Yeah.
I was like, who is the brand that we need there when I'm talking about Leonardo da Vinci, Florence, Renaissance, that is going to make this relevant today? Like, how am I going to make that message contemporary? And that's when I went, it's Adobe. I need to get Adobe on side.
Yeah.
Because if Adobe is there with Effectors all the time, one, they both start with A, which is nice. People like alliteration, and I like poetry. Catchy, exactly. But more than that, not that I'm discounting catchy. I think I come from advertising background, so catchy is good. But no,
there is more to it.
That'll be the one thing that people remember when they watch this. Now, thank you for
catchy,
that.
Catchy, Adobe Effectors.
So, to give it some depth, shall we say, it was okay. It's software and it's multiple medias.
Yeah.
And at the same time, 3 years ago, I caught wind of them switching from a boxed software product to a subscription model product.
Yeah.
And that really pissed off a lot of their customers. And so there was a sort of opportunity there for me. Some would call it a problem, but I don't like the word. I prefer opportunity. To help them to communicate the benefits of doing that.
Yeah.
And the benefits of doing that were that they could constantly respond to feedback and upgrade the software in real time, so that just as Apple and Microsoft were releasing new hardware, they could then upgrade the software and it would all go seamlessly.
Yeah.
So that was great from a business model of their perspective, but the customers weren't really understanding that. So from the other side, that's where the Leonardo da Vinci, Florence, Renaissance message really fitted in. Because it was, okay, so you may start off as an illustrator that uses Illustrator and Photoshop and maybe InDesign. But now you don't have to spend $4,000 to buy After Effects and Premiere in order to do process videos and animation.
Yeah.
Now you can actually just grab those as part of your subscription.
Yeah.
And you've got more than 30 days now to actually practice it and see if you like it.
Exactly. You're not going to necessarily master it in 30 days. So
my first business, I worked with about 60 freelance visual artists, animators, illustrators, oil painters. And so I had first-hand experience of like how much they didn't want the software to change.
Yeah.
Because they liked it being the way that they always knew it was. But you can see, going back to what we were saying earlier, in the kind of VR and AR and these new medias coming in and expanding reality and eyes of a child, steep learning curve. Anybody who's kind of going, don't change my software, is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So that was the challenge that became a real opportunity for me, which was like, okay, if you really do love the curious, creative life, then you would be embracing this, because it actually gives you an opportunity
to do more.
And to do more with less is a pretty good working definition of creativity to my mind. So Adobe sent me around Australia and New Zealand to do spoken word, poetry, and I think the term is thought leadership. You can see I'm still not good at that. For 45 minutes to audiences full of business owners and creative practitioners. So that was my opportunity then to test it out and see if it worked. And it got a really good response, and since then I've been able to go to Los Angeles last year and San Diego last week.
Yeah, and you met Quentin Tarantino, is this correct?
I didn't meet him.
Oh.
No, so after the wonderful Baz Luhrmann interaction last year.
You had a Baz Luhrmann interaction?
You can see that his answer to the question I asked him was, is creativity self-inflicted? Which, given I've had a bit of a conversation with your inner critic.
What? No.
I think you might be able to relate to creativity for seeming self-inflicted. His answer to that is just a gorgeous answer. Like, it's just a beautiful, practical answer. For the last 12 months, I've watched it at least twice a month, because there's always something in it that I can practice.
Yeah.
I don't want to give the answer here because I'd rather everyone heard his answer.
Yeah.
And I can make that link available to you so people can watch it.
Hear what he says.
He's theatrical, dramatic, like lovely to listen to and watch. So
you don't want to paraphrase.
No, I think he's quite qualified to express himself.
Yep.
I think he might do that for a living. Yes, so.
Oh, really?
Well, direction is a form of expressing through other people, much like you're doing through me right now.
Exactly. What can I say? Just using you, really.
So that's fine. I agreed to that when I decided to travel here. But Quentin is quite an amazing human being, very powerful presence. He was interviewed by the head of marketing for Adobe worldwide. Her name is Anne Loons, and she's like awesome. And I mean awesome, like a tidal wave, not like a trick on a skateboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just this wave of kind of presence coming at you, and you're kind of like mesmerised by it, and at the same time, you know you're about to be obliterated by this person. So she had Quentin. She had that. She didn't need any help there, and also he. It didn't look like he was really going to be open to questions from the audience, so they didn't actually do it this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it is a very, very interesting interview, and like my map of reality was expanded through watching him and listening to the way he answers questions, and you can see that because they've got it available online at max.adobe.com.
Yeah.
So you can see the whole interview. Yeah. And I think that's probably more valuable to
beneficial.
You and to everyone to actually hear it from him rather than me to paraphrase it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having a chat with us this afternoon. And I'm really looking forward to tonight hearing what you have to say and what other people have to ask you about everything that we've talked about. I mean, yeah, it's, as we were saying before, we could go on forever. It's so vast, but yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Make sure to head over and check out more interviews from the GEW.